It is Saturday, the 26th of April, 2025. My name is Pigeon Rose, and this is my song of the day. Here we are, for the final time in this podcast, talking about They Might Be Giants. Now, I've talked about a few of their songs here. There are so many others I wanted to talk about because they just have such a prolific output. I mean, they have so many albums. Never mind the kids' albums and everything else, and solo work as well. But if you want to listen to a podcast extensively talking about They Might Be Giants' back catalog, go listen to Don't Let's Start. My podcast, being concerned with individual songs, I'm talking about their song Shoehorn with Teeth from their album Lincoln, which is their second album. This was a song that I had on my MP3 player back when I got into They Might Be Giants, and it would come up on shuffle and I'd recognize it right away. You'll understand when we listen to it. It has a very recognizable opening. And it never really made an impression on me, but I always knew which song it was when I heard it. It only really became a song I kind of cared about when I listened to the Don't Let's Start podcast talk about it, which was one of the many episodes I listened to when I was in Sweden, I've mentioned before. I specifically remember walking around like a really pretty public park in Stockholm while listening to the episode talking about this and just kind of laughing to myself and also thinking deeper about the lyrics, and just a very specific memory in my head. So since then, this song has been, probably not in my top 10 They Might Be Giant songs, but it's a song I really like. And I wanted to talk about it on this show. There's others I could have talked about, but I figured why not talk about this one, so that's what we're doing. So without further ado, let's go listen to it now and then come back in a few minutes and talk about it. And that was Shoehorn with Teeth by They Might Be Giants. Short and sweet, only 73 seconds long, which is wild. I mean, They Might Be Giants are known for their short songs, but that's one of their, it's certainly their shortest that I've talked about on the show anyway. So this song, what a strange thing this song is. First of all, you've got those saxophones going, that's what I meant by it having a very recognizable intro, you know. And then you've got the accordion, of course, and the glockenspiel, just playing one single note. He wants to shoehorn the kind with teeth, do-do-do-do, bing! Just an A note. It's very funny. There's just something about the pause just for the ding every time. Very funny. So, a shoehorn with teeth. What a strange title, right? What a strange thing. They Might Be Giants always making up weird shit. So a shoehorn, if you don't know, is a device for fitting a shoe on or taking it off. And they do not typically come with teeth. So where does this idea come from? Well, Dan Spock, who is a childhood friend of John and John, said that they had a mutual friend from New York who was this he would play pranks all the time, and one of the pranks that he would do is he would go into a shoe store and ask if they had shoehorns, and they would pull out different shoehorns and whatever, and he'd be like, no, that's not what I'm looking for. And eventually they would say, what are you looking for? And he's like, the kind with teeth. And he would basically just keep insisting on a shoehorn with teeth until they got chased out of the shop, basically. And that seems to be where the title came from. Apparently this guy is Eric Drucker, who is himself, he's a painter and graphic novelist, and he's moderately famous in his own right. So it's interesting that he had this prank and it led to this They Might Be Giants song. So what's the song actually about? Well, it's quite an absurd song, and it seems to kind of be about absurdism. It revolves around that whole thing of the idea of the prank of the shoehorn with teeth and kind of contradictions, And so the chorus is, he wants a shoehorn, the kind with teeth. People should get beat up for stating their beliefs. He wants a shoehorn, the kind with teeth, because he knows there's no such thing. So the shoehorn with teeth thing I just explained, and the because he knows there's no such thing, it's not a thing that exists, he's just playing a prank. But the people should get beat up for stating their beliefs is such a funny line because it's such a non sequitur. It has nothing to do with the rest of the chorus, and it's just people should get beat up for stating their beliefs. It's hilarious here. And also he's stating a belief, so he should get beat up by his own rule. Then the first verse is, he asks a girl if they can both sit in a chair, but he doesn't get nervous. She's not really there. He wants to shoehorn the kind of teeth because he knows there's no such thing. So he asks a girl if they can both sit in a chair. Sounds like kind of the thing of pulling a girl into your lap, Although it could be sitting beside each other on a bus or something, It feels like a very precocious teenagey thing, puppy love. But he doesn't get nervous, she's not really there. You could interpret that a lot of ways, but to me, apart from just the standard contradiction, it sounds like he's kind of he's practicing asking her, so he's not nervous, but when he actually does it, she will be. Or he doesn't actually have a girl to ask, and he's just sort of fantasizing about this idea, you know what I mean? And then the second verse, tour the world in a heavy metal band, but they run out of gas. The plane can never land. And then the chorus again. So it's probably just heavy metal band because it fits with the flow of the line, because it's just tour the world in a band. Doesn't really work. I suppose you could say in a rock and roll band, but there's just something about the phrase heavy metal band that it has good mouthfeel. But they run out of gas. The plane can never land. I don't remember where I saw this. Was it on the wiki? Hold on. Was someone talking about the belief that planes couldn't land? Hold on. Oh, there's some ridiculous theories about this song in the interpretations tab of the wiki, by the way. Good lord. Yeah, someone on this might be a wiki, credited as Rylum. I vaguely remember someone trying to fool me when I was a child, saying that airplanes only need gas when they're on the ground, not when they're in the air. If the plane runs out of gas after takeoff, it will not be able to land. So it is interesting that that's in there. They run out of gas, the plane can never land. It's just one of those like contradictions where, like, of course the plane can land. In fact, it has to land if it runs out of gas, but it's this faulty logic of like, well, I guess it can never land now because it needs gas to run on land. And then the chorus again, and then verse 3. What's the sense in ever thinking about the tomb when you're much too busy returning to the womb? So thinking about the tomb is, of course, thinking about death, returning to the womb, returning to the birth canal. It's such a strange thing to say, but it's this thing that comes up a lot. I think it's a Freudian psychology thing. So, bullshit, where people talk about the idea of returning to the womb or wanting to be back in the mother's womb as like a safety thing. And so he's kind of saying, what's the sense in ever thinking about the tomb when you're much too busy returning to the womb? Like, it's pointless to think about death all the time when you could be focusing on life. At least that's how I interpret it. It feels, it's highlighting, not hypocritical, it's highlighting absurd contradictions, but this one seems like almost a more hopeful one. It's like a good message of like, stop thinking about death and go out and live your life. And then the final chorus ending with, 'cause he knows there's no such thing. Just a really fun song, very silly, but like it feels like it has something to say as well. People should get beat up for stating their beliefs is an all-timer, great lyric. And yeah, I just really enjoy it, and I think it was a good one to send off me talking about They Might Be Giants with, because it's so silly and so short and so emblematic of their style, you know what I mean? And that's going to do it for today, I think. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below, tell me what you think, tell other people about this show. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Break it down.
Stop thinking about death and go out and live your life. Wake up, get out there.